It's all in vain, as are those of Geoff Capes, still struggling a little with that neck injury. A brave effort by the Englishman, but it's John Paul Sigmarsson, the Viking, who has done it again. 5 wins out of 6. What a start. Back to pure strength here at Huntly Castle in Aberdeenshire for the Budweiser Trophy. And the situation on this, the first event on the second day, is that John Paul Sigmarsson of Iceland is way out in front. 5 wins out of a possible 6, 17 points to Bill Kazmaier's 10 and Geoff Capes' 9. And we move into the log lift with Kazmaier first to go. Really a man who's very determined to cut back that lead of John Paul Sigmarsson's. There's a traditional weightlifting event using a log to which weights are added as the competition goes on. And tactics come in here a little bit as well, because you're allowed 6 lifts in total throughout the event. You choose the weights at which you want to lift. And Bill Kazmaier, as you saw there, no problems at all at 250 pounds. Really only a loosener. So tactics very important here as John Paul Sigmarsson attempts the same weight, because you can choose to miss a weight and allow your opponent to use up one of his 6 lifts. This particular event taking place high up on the castle walls, and Geoff Capes, who's not perhaps as ebullient as we've seen him this morning. He's been having a lot of trouble with a trapped nerve in his neck since the McGlashan Stones event yesterday, and he might find a few problems here. He's got it though. Geoff Capes showing a lot of courage. That must be hurting a great deal. So all 3 clear at 250 pounds. Bill Kazmaier first to go at 280. 30 pounds of weight added to the log. Kazmaier, who once again is off listening to the pipe music and the personal stereo between lifts. It's tremendous inspiration from it. As you can see, up it goes, no problems at 280. And John Paul Sigmarsson will now attempt that same weight. Interesting to watch Sigmarsson's technique here, because he did have an injury as a young man, not young enough now, but when he was younger, and in fact doesn't have a complete lockout on the final part of the lift. You just watch. He doesn't quite get up as far, but Judge Bill Anderson is well aware of that and knows that that's as high as Sigmarsson can go. It signifies no less effort, and that's a good clean lift. So Geoff Capes to match the efforts of Kazmaier and Sigmarsson. 280 pounds. 20 stones.
Come on! Come on! Yeah! Easy! Get it done! Come on! Come on! Yeah!
Above the head. Oh! Nope, that's a failure for Capes. And that might just be an indication that the injury is troubling him. So Geoff Capes out of the competition, and once again it's a 2-man event. And John Paul Sigmarsson next to go.
Come on, do it! Come on!
300 pounds.
Come on! Yeah!
He looks so comfortable, doesn't he? Looks so easy. So Sigmarsson at 300, and here's the first indication of tactics, because Bill Kazmaier has elected to pass on 300 to save a lift for perhaps later in the competition, anticipating another very tight tussle with Sigmarsson, and he now moves on to 320 pounds. He's got to get it, of course. He's passed on 300, this Kazmaier at 320. And up she goes. Once again, he asks the question of John Paul Sigmarsson. And Sigmarsson too, as you can see, indulging in the tactical game. He decides to pass on 320, and he'll go straight to 340 pounds, thereby keeping him on the same number of lifts as his opponent.
Yeah. Hey! Come on! Yeah! Let's go! Yeah! Come on, yeah!
Get it first time. Onto the head. Got to stay steady. There's not a lot of room to move up there on the platform on the castle wall. Doesn't want to start staggering around or it'll never go. But he's steadied. Yes, Bill Anderson says that's good. So a little bit of a struggle there for Sigmarsson, but he's got it at 340. And Bill Kazmaier, playing the tactical game, says, no, I'll leave it till 350. So, if he gets this one, he's 10 ahead of Sigmarsson, and they'll each have lifted 4 times.
All the way now. Power it. Come on. Come on.
Encouragement as always from the seconds. Oh, Kazmaier working. And up she goes. And the first little smatter of applause, because that really was a great effort. So, John Paul Sigmarsson looking to better that as Kazmaier looks on in the background. 360 pounds up above his head. This is Sigmarsson's 5th lift. If he gets this, he only has 1 left. But again, it's got to go on to the head. Look at those biceps. Tremendous power. Again, that's right arm not quite locking out, but that's as far as it can physically go in his case. And is he ever delighted about that? 360 pounds. And Kazmaier does a bit of thinking, goes off, listens to the pipe music and decides he'll miss the 360 and go for 365. At these kind of weights, 5 pounds is a big difference. So 365. This will be Kazmaier's 5th lift. So he still has 1 on Sigmarsson. Great tactical battle, this. This is 3rd attempt, so he can't afford to fail. If he drops this one, Sigmarsson has another win. He's getting it. Oh, it's gone.
What do we do to a balancing act on a wire?
Bill Kazmaier absolutely furious with himself. The tactical error, perhaps he elected to wait until 365. He had 2 failures. And then the 3rd, which means that John Paul Sigmarsson has done it again. His last lift of 360 pounds, enough to win yet another event. So delight for Sigmarsson, fury for Kazmaier, and for Geoff Capes, nothing but black despair.
If you take my career, which has been 32 years, 22 of them been international athletes, and where I've never pulled out of a competition when I'm injured. And the last 10 years I've been competing in strongest man competitions all over the world against the same people I'm competing against today, and never ever pulled out of a competition. But I think it's important to say that probably this is the greatest competition that has ever took place, together with the 3 men, and these 3 men, myself included, Kazmaier and John Paul Sigmarsson, are the 3 greatest strongmen of all time.
So only 2 strong men remain in the hunt for the Budweiser Trophy. John Paul Sigmarsson and Bill Kazmaier. And at the moment, it's heavy odds on the Viking from Reykjavik. Tremendous display of strength, and Kazmaier knows he has a tremendous job to do. And this, of course, the wheelbarrow. The barrow, 300 kilos. The McGlashan stones, 440 kilos, together with some assorted weights. The total weight, 740 kilos, 1,628 pounds, 3/4 of a ton, which has to be pushed around this course in the cobbled courtyard of Huntly Castle. It's a timed event. John Paul Sigmarsson, steady, getting the barrow in motion and keeping it going, negotiating the corners. Strain showing in his face, and he has to take a rest. Asks for the time. Timekeeper, I think, confusing him a little with the answer. John Paul knows that he can afford to take a breather here. And the psyching up. The lift and push to the finishing line, and the barrow wheel is stuck by a cobble there. It's not an easy course. One thing to push it over smooth tarmac or concrete, but these are cobbles to make it even more difficult. And Sigmarsson, despite all the encouragement, has to take another break, but he's up and off again and over the line, and that was very impressive. Kazmaier in the background looks on but doesn't smile. 1 minute 27 seconds, and that was tough. Bill Anderson, a referee, sets off Bill Kazmaier, resplendent in his kilt, incidentally the Scottish Commonwealth Games tartan, created for the 1986 event in Edinburgh. Kazmaier proud to wear it. Great fan of all things Scottish.
There's really something mystical about the pipes. You know, they say that it's the highest form that the human can produce through an instrument. And to me, it sends chills up and down my spine. If I close my eyes, it literally, a tear, and I'm sent 1,000 feet. Well, to tell the truth, I have a lot of dreams where I'm standing at the edge of a castle and I'm throwing heavy weights with barbs out into the crowds of rushing soldiers, things like that. But I'm not sure. Maybe a couple hundred years ago, I might have gone once around over here.
Deep breaths from Kazmaier, psyching himself up. Come on, let's get this finished. Let's beat 1:27. The clock ticks on. 22-inch upper arms, 17-inch forearms. One of the most impressive physiques any of us have ever seen. But he's struggling a little bit again, and he has to take another stop. Just to continue on the theme of Bill Kazmaier's build, a 60-inch chest and a 40-inch waist. Huge, 23 stones of solid muscle. And now he's off towards the finishing line, being encouraged every step of the way, but it's not enough. Another Herculean effort from the American. 1:41, 14 seconds behind Sigmarsson, and this astonishing Viking has done it yet again.
These are the heavy cartwheels we'll be using in event 9, the deadlift, with the thought now clearly in John Paul Sigmarsson's mind that not only can he win this title, but he can do so by taking 9 out of the 10 events, and that really would be an astonishing achievement.
And Sigmarsson first to go in the deadlift with the total weight of cartwheels and weight discs, 815 pounds, and lifted with the same ease you or I would pick up a holiday suitcase. Bill Kazmaier, 815 pounds. No problems either for Kazmaier, as indeed one would expect of former world powerlifting champion. The first man to bench press 300 kilos, which is the powerlifting equivalent of a 4-minute mile. So this could be a very good contest indeed. Kazmaier, slight favourite, but Sigmarsson here, as we've seen, is in quite immaculate condition. Oh, problem there. I think perhaps the binding on his wrist came loose, and Bill Anderson, I don't think, had given that as a fair lift. So in comes Hilty, the faithful second, and this time no problems. Little unwanted extra effort there from Sigmarsson. 925 pounds now the weight on the bar. Kazmaier, second man to go in this event, so he'll always be following Sigmarsson. And up it goes. And on goes another 50 pounds. We're now at 975 pounds. And John Paul Sigmarsson looks as if he has a lot more